A week before my wedding, I went to the hospital with my best friend and saw my fiancé at a pregnancy checkup with his ex. I didn't confront him. I smiled, went home, and planned the wedding he thought was still happening. On the big day, I walked down the aisle and played the footage in front of everyone. There are moments that cleave a life clean in half. You never see them coming. They arrive in hospital hallways and casual texts, in offhand glances and empty dinner plates. Mine came at 11:42 a.m. on a rainy Thursday. I wasn't supposed to be there, just visiting Lila for a minor checkup. She'd fainted at work and I'd driven her in, made her laugh in the waiting room, ordered us overpriced smoothies. Then I stood up to use the restroom and took a wrong turn. And there he was. Noah Green. My fiancé. In the maternity wing. With her. He didn't see me. I recognized Tessa immediately. The ex he swore was a phase. The one he told me never mattered. She was glowing in that unmistakable way. A hand pressed to her belly, the other tucked into the crook of Noah's arm. They stood at the nurse's station. The receptionist handed over a folder. I watched as Tessa turned it around to show Noah something inside. Then she laughed. And Noah smiled. The same smile he gave me when we ordered wedding cake samples last week. I didn't cry. I didn't make a sound. I just pulled out my phone, lifted it slightly, and pressed record. It was instinct. A reflex. My hand didn't shake. My breathing didn't change. The lens captured it all. His hand on her back, her voice soft as she said, "They said everything looks perfect. Can you believe it?" Noah leaned in and whispered, "I'm just glad I was here for it. Our baby deserves that. Our baby." I ended the recording. I turned. And I walked away. Lila was mid-scroll through a gossip article when I re-entered the room. "You okay?" she asked, brow furrowing. "You look like you saw a ghost." "No," I said, smoothing my hair. "Just took a wrong turn." She tilted her head, unconvinced, but didn't push. "They're sending me home. Want to grab lunch?" "Sure." I smiled. Because if I didn't, something inside me might shatter. That evening, Noah was home early. Cooking pasta, as if he hadn't just promised a future to someone else hours earlier. "Lila okay?" he asked. "Yeah," I said, unbuttoning my coat. "Just dehydrated." They let her go after a saline drip. He poured 2 glasses of wine and leaned in to kiss my cheek. "You're amazing, you know that?" I didn't flinch. I kissed him back. That night, I lay beside him in bed, facing the window while he slept. My mind didn't replay the betrayal. It replayed the details, the clarity of his voice, the way his hand rested on her stomach like it belonged there. That was the night something inside me split. Not with violence. With clarity. I wasn't going to scream. I wasn't going to fight. I was going to dismantle him, with silence, strategy, and precision. The next morning I woke before him. I made coffee, reviewed my work calendar, and opened a private folder on my laptop. I created a new file. The wedding reversal. Inside it, I dropped the video from the hospital. I added a blank spreadsheet with one title, Timeline. And beneath that, Reveal equals wedding day. For the next week I played the role he needed. The excited bride. The smiling fiancé. The woman who texted back with heart emojis and told her mother-in-law the napkin colors had been finalized. Noah had no idea. He didn't even sense the shift. Because men like him never do. They mistake silence for forgiveness. Stillness for surrender. But mine was preparation. I started watching him. How often he disappeared for calls. The softness in his voice when he was distracted. The fake stress he invented to explain why he couldn't meet my family last weekend. It was all so obvious now. But I said nothing. Just took notes. Tracked names. Saved receipts. Laughed at his jokes. Planned a wedding. And began plotting the real one. The difference between heartbreak and power is what you do with the moment after the fall. Me. I wasn't going to stay broken. I was going to rise, with his lies on tape, a new groom waiting in the wings, and a plan that would ruin him, all while I walked down the aisle in white. Smiling. Grief doesn't always scream. Sometimes it's silent. It slips into your bones in the middle of the night and presses its weight on your chest until breathing feels like a burden. That's what it felt like, after the hospital. I had smiled the whole way back to Lila's room. Laughed at her jokes. Texted Noah back with a heart emoji. Said I'd be home by dinner. And then I went into the bathroom. Turned on the faucet. locked the door, and collapsed to the tile floor, fists pressed to my mouth to muffle the sobs that ripped through me like glass. Noah was waiting for me in the kitchen when I got home. Pasta again. He leaned over and kissed my cheek like he hadn't spent the morning playing house with the woman who came before me. He poured wine. Asked about Lila. Said he'd had a long day at the office. I nodded. Listen. Even joked back. Because I didn't want him to see it yet. Not the heartbreak. Not the rage. Not the power I hadn't yet chosen to claim. That night, I lay in bed beside him with my eyes open while he snored softly, arm draped over my waist. My phone was still under my pillow. The video. The lie recorded in motion. My finger hovered over the screen, replaying the moment Noah touched Tessa's belly like it was his future. She smiled at him. The way I used to. I didn't cry again. Not then. Now I studied it. Every frame. Every word. Every betrayal. The days that followed blurred. I woke up, smiled and kissed him good morning. I went to dress fittings. Picked out napkin colors with his mother. Took engagement photos with a grin so polished it could have been printed on a magazine cover. But behind the performance something else was happening. I was grieving the version of me that believed him. I was saying goodbye to the girl who thought loyalty earned loyalty. And when no one was looking I was falling apart, in small tidy ways. I cried in the shower. Screamed into my coat in the back of Ubers. Stared too long at grocery shelves not seeing anything. Lila noticed. Of course she did. You seem hollow, she said one day. Like you're here but not. I'm fine, I lied. She didn't push. But her eyes lingered. She knew me better than anyone. One night I found myself standing in front of the mirror in my wedding dress. I had put it on alone. No glam team. No mother. No champagne. Just me. The dress was stunning. Ivory silk fitted through the waist, train cascading like a waterfall. But I didn't recognize the woman wearing it. She looked like someone who still believed she was chosen. I sat down on the edge of the bed in silence and stared at the ring on my finger. Then I slipped it off. And set it on the nightstand. I didn't know exactly when it changed. Maybe it was when I walked into the cafe and saw Tessa 2 tables away, glowing, laughing, holding a baby registry card with Noah's name written across the top in blue ink. Or maybe it was when Noah texted me a picture of our wedding invitation draft with the message. Can't wait to call you mine. That's when something hardened inside me. Grief had done its part. Now it was time for precision. I booked a session with Gabriella Hart, my family attorney, under the guise of needing prenup revisions. She scanned me from behind her glasses. Everything all right? Not yet, I said. But it will be. She raised an eyebrow. How aggressive are we talking? Calculated, I replied. Silent. And final. Her smile was small and sharp. Now we're talking. That evening I pulled out an old contact card from my desk drawer. Damian Wolf. We hadn't spoken in almost a year. But he'd once told me, if you ever want to rewrite the ending, call me. I typed out a message. Then I paused. I wasn't ready to send it. Not yet. Not until the grief finished its final lap through my system. A few nights later I found Noah asleep again before I'd even finished brushing my hair. I walked past him through the apartment into the guest room I used as a home office. I opened my laptop. And created a folder. Title, The Wedding Reversal. Inside I uploaded the video. Created a guest list. Opened a blank spreadsheet labeled, Weak Points. The planning had begun. But first, I needed to gather allies. Not many. Just the right ones. And one of them had a last name that made the tech world tremble. Wolf. The message I sent to Damian Wolf was short. Subject, coffee? I need 15 minutes of your time, and your silence. I believe you'll want an Isla. He responded within 10 minutes. Tomorrow. 3 p.m. My office. Come alone. There was no emoji. No warmth. Just directness. Classic Damian. That's what made him dangerous and perfect. The next day I dressed like confidence. Tailored blazer. Silk blouse. Lipstick just a shade darker than usual. The kind of outfit that said I wasn't here to beg. I was here to negotiate. Damian's office was on the 50th floor of Wolf and Chase, a building that gleamed like ambition. He stood when I entered, all lean lines and quiet control, dressed in charcoal and drinking black coffee like it was blood. Isla, he said with a tilt of his head. To what do I owe the rare honor? I sat across from him and placed a small black USB on his desk. He arched a brow. This isn't a wedding favor, I assume. Play it. He plugged it in. The hospital footage filled the screen. Noah's hand on Tessa's belly. Her voice soft. Our baby is healthy. They said everything looks perfect. Damien didn't speak for a full minute. Then, he's marrying you in 2 weeks? Supposedly, I said. I'm still the bride on paper. Just not in reality. His eyes slid to mine. And what exactly are you proposing? I smiled, slow and sharp. I want to switch the groom. At the altar. I want everyone, including Noah, to believe the wedding is happening as planned. Until the moment I say otherwise. Damien leaned back, steepling his fingers. You want spectacle. I want exposure, I corrected. I want silence turned into power. I want the truth dropped in the middle of the fantasy. And then I want to marry someone who understands what I'm worth. He didn't hesitate. I'll do it. I spent the next week building what I called the illusion. The florist was never cancelled. The photographer kept his schedule. The venue confirmed the guest list, unchanged. Noah received final prep updates every day. I sent him selfies in my wedding robe. He sent back kiss emojis and honeymoon plans. He had no idea. That was the beauty of it. The man was so smug, so certain, so comfortable, he never questioned my calm. He mistook it for love. But I was already marrying someone else. At night I made spreadsheets. Guests who would stay. Guests who needed to be rerouted. Journalists who could be tipped anonymously. Footage backups stored in 3 separate cloud drives. I wasn't just planning a wedding. I was engineering an execution. Lila was the first person I pulled in. She cried when I told her everything, from the hospital to Damien's agreement. I wanted to scream the second I saw him touch her, she whispered. Why didn't you say anything? Because I wanted more than a scene, I said. I wanted an ending. She hugged me so tightly it hurt. Just tell me what to do. I need you in the bridal suite. I need a decoy plan in case anyone pokes around too hard. And I need you to press play, if my hand shakes. Her eyes hardened. I won't let it. Next I met with Callie, my assistant. She was blunt, efficient and wickedly loyal. We sat in my home office over 2 laptops. I've drafted a secondary invite list under the Wolf and Chase Gala name, she said. Press and high-net guests only. We'll send the new venue switch to select guests under the premise of security concerns. Perfect, I murmured. Are we destroying him? I looked up at her. No, I said. We're letting him destroy himself. I'm just setting up the lights. 1 week before the wedding, I met Damien in a private rehearsal space to walk through the final switch. He stood at the altar. I approached in my wedding dress. We practiced the moment where I'd turn, not to Noah but to the screen, and press play. He watched me move in silence. Then he said, You're terrifyingly calm. Calm women are underestimated. Until they burn it all down, he said with a smirk. I turned, faced him squarely. Are you sure you want to do this? He didn't flinch. I don't fake loyalty. If I show up, I mean it. We shook hands. And just like that, the blueprint was signed. The final message I received from Noah before the wedding said, Can't wait to see you walk toward me, baby. The happiest day of my life is almost here. I stared at it for a long time. Then I locked my phone and went back to practicing the switch. Every perfect takedown begins with the right people. I didn't need an army. Just a handful of loyal allies who knew how to follow orders, keep secrets, and strike only when the blade would cut deepest. The first was already locked in, Damien Wolf. He didn't just agree to marry me. He coordinated with his PR team, his legal counsel, even his stylist. Everything had to appear seamless, like we'd been together all along, just waiting for the right moment to announce. He would be the groom Noah could never compete with. The second was Lila, my maid of honor and my eyes behind the scenes. And the third was Callie. No one understood logistics better than her. By midweek, the Carrington Ballroom had been restructured under 2 different events: the official Monroe Green wedding in the public registry, and the private Wolf and Chase event listed internally for security teams and event vendors. Same time, same place, same guests, different ending. Callie's code word for the event when speaking to vendors was Swan Fire, a nod to what this wedding truly was: a beautiful display hiding a roaring blaze beneath. I sat with Lila 3 nights before the wedding in my apartment. Noah was out finalizing honeymoon tickets. A hilarious lie. I had wine. He had the tech. This is the backup, she said, handing me a small remote USB drive. Hospital footage, edited to 1 minute and 15 seconds. Time stamped. Your name blurred but clear enough to prove he was cheating. Can you cue it? She smiled. Already tested on the venue's projector. I slipped into their AV system yesterday while they were testing lighting. I blinked. You hacked the ballroom? She sipped her wine. You asked me to show up. I did. Callie delivered the second wave. Press list updated. Our friends at Cityscope magazine are sending a photographer. I gave him a non-disclosure agreement and a seat at the back of the room. Good. She slid a printed email across the counter. And this just in. Marston Capital is attending. I froze. Noah's largest investor? She nodded. His board wants to see him in person before they confirm next quarter's injection. A smile broke across my face. Let's make sure they get a very clear view. I let Noah believe I was a glowing, love-struck bride. I sent him videos of me doing my makeup trial. Voice notes from the seamstress. I even laughed with his mother over centerpieces and guest cards. Every moment was a lie. Every gesture, a rope tightening around his perfect little illusion. 2 days before the wedding, Damien and I met one final time. We stood in the actual ballroom this time. The altar was up, the chandeliers dimmed, soft golden light painting the space in warmth. He looked at me in the mirror as I stepped onto the aisle. You sure? He asked. Once this is done, there's no reversing it. I thought of the hospital footage. Of Noah's hand on Tessa's belly. Of the nights I cried in silence beside a man who was building a family behind my back. I looked at Damien and said, I'm not burning bridges. I'm demolishing the house he built with lies. He nodded. And offered his arm. The night before the wedding, Lila stayed over. We sat in silk robes just like we had during our college nights, but everything was different now. You scared? She asked quietly. No. You should be. I looked at her. I was scared when I thought love meant waiting patiently for someone to choose me. Now I'm just free. Lila grinned. You are terrifying, you know that? Only to those who deserve it. The morning arrived. Florists filled the hotel. Musicians rehearsed. Guests arrived in waves. Some curious, some excited, none prepared. Noah texted. Noah, I'm already here. You look stunning. I love you so much. I turned off my phone. Then walked into the bridal suite where Lila waited with a calm, terrifying smile. It's time, she said, placing the remote in my hand. Noah stood at the altar. He wore a pale blue suit and a smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. Maybe some part of him knew something was off. He just didn't know what. Not yet. The officiant stood beside him, confused but composed. Guests rose. And I stepped into the doorway. Dress shining. Hair perfect. Face unreadable. I walked down the aisle. But I didn't stop beside Noah. I turned to the audience. And raised the remote. The screen dropped down behind the altar. The music stopped. Gasps rippled through the room as the video began to play. The hospital hallway. Noah's voice. Tessa's belly. Our baby is healthy. They said everything looks perfect. The footage was crisp. Unedited. Clear as crystal. Then came the timestamp. 12 days ago. No one moved. Not even Noah. He stood frozen. Eyes wide. Lips parted. Sweat dotting his brow. I turned to him, lifted the mic and said, You wanted a wedding, Noah? Here's your gift. Then I stepped aside. Damien walked out of the wings in a black tuxedo. Commanding. He took my hand. And kissed it. The audience erupted. Half in shock. Half in applause. For a moment there was silence. That taut, suspended kind of silence. The kind that comes just before the world splits in two. Noah stared at the screen like he couldn't process what he was seeing. Like if he blinked hard enough, the hospital footage would disappear. That the timestamp 12 days ago would rewrite itself. That his lies wouldn't be playing across a 30-foot LED projection in front of his family, my friends, and our investors. But it didn't vanish. The screen went dark. And I turned to him. Surprise, I said softly. Noah stumbled forward, voice cracking. What is this? Isla, what are you doing? I held the mic. Do you want to explain it? Or should I? The guests were frozen. Damien stood behind me now, a quiet shadow of strength. His presence alone was enough to shift the room's gravity. Noah's eyes darted between us. I can explain, he said. This was Tessa. This is taken out of context. You're right, I said, cool and unshaken. The context is that you were at the OB/GYN with your ex while engaged to me. The context is that she's pregnant and you plan to keep both of us. No, he gasped. I know exactly what you never planned, Noah. You never planned for me to find out. You never planned for me to walk away. And you sure as hell never planned for me to bring another man to the altar. That's when I turned and faced Damien fully. He reached out, took my hand, and the officiant, bless her, didn't miss a beat. She adjusted her notes and said, "Ladies and gentlemen, there has been a change of groom." Gasps. Audible ones this time. A few guests actually stood unsure of what to do. Damien leaned in and whispered against my temple, "Are you sure you want to marry me today?" I glanced back at Noah, his face pale, his lips quivering, fists clenched. "Yes," I said. "Good," Damien murmured. Because I wasn't walking away either way. The vows were simple. No theatrics. No poetry. Just truth. "I vow to never silence your strength," Damien said. "And never mistake your intelligence for a threat." I didn't cry. Not even when I said mine. "I vow to never need rescuing, but to stand beside someone who sees my value without asking me to shrink." We exchanged rings. And with a firm, almost defiant tone, the officiant declared, "I now pronounce you husband and wife." The crowd applauded, hesitantly at first, then louder, some standing, some stunned. Noah didn't move. He just stood there as Damien dipped his head and kissed me, not possessively but reverently. I didn't close my eyes. I watched Noah as Damien kissed me. That was the final blow. Outside, cameras waited. Callie had arranged for 2 trusted press outlets to be present. A select leak had gone out just minutes before the video played. Unexpected groom switch at Monroe Green wedding. Sources say betrayal led to billionaire stepping in. The moment Damien and I stepped through the hotel doors, flashes erupted. He held my hand like it was a crown. And I smiled. Not because I needed to, but as I meant it. Later that night, after the guests had gone, I walked through the empty ballroom in my wedding dress. The lights were low. Petals scattered the aisle like the aftermath of a war no one saw coming. Noah's mother had left early, dragging him by the arm. Tessa never showed. Or maybe she did and fled before the screen dropped. Either way, they were gone. Damien entered quietly, removing his jacket, folding it neatly over a chair. "Want me to leave you alone for a minute?" he asked gently. "No." I walked toward him. "I want to feel it. The end of one life. The start of another." He stepped forward and tucked a stray curl behind my ear. "You did that," he said. "No one else." And for once I believed it. At midnight I checked my phone. Noah had called 7 times. 7 voicemails. 7 different kinds of desperation. The last one, "You embarrassed me in front of my entire world. But I still love you, Isla. I still want to fix this. Call me back. Please." I didn't. I played it one last time. Then deleted it. Because the wedding was over. The performance was finished. And I had finally rewritten the ending. The press called it, "The Switch Heard Around the World." Tech insiders dubbed it, "The Carrington Collapse." My inbox flooded with headlines. Noah Green dumped at the altar. Billionaire steps in. Wolf bride shocks guests with hospital footage exposing fiancé's affair. Investor confidence crumbles for Green's CEO following wedding scandal. Some outlets tried to spin it into a love triangle. Others focused on my calm. The video. The timing. The way I never raised my voice. They called me ice, flame, vengeance in white silk. I didn't read most of it. I didn't need to. Noah read every word. The fallout began instantly. Marston Capital, the same firm that had backed Noah's company for 3 rounds, released a statement 2 days after the wedding. "Due to recent developments surrounding executive conduct, we are re-evaluating our relationship with Greensk." They froze all future funding. His CTO resigned. Two of his advisors issued statements distancing themselves from the scandal. Employees began posting cryptic messages on LinkedIn. The kind that said a lot without saying anything. Company culture matters. Integrity at the top defines the structure beneath. Proud to say I value transparency. Then came the leaks. An anonymous source shared screenshots of Noah's internal Slack messages. Some flirtatious, others dismissive of investor concerns. Another forwarded board meeting clips where Noah joked about being the next Elon with better hair and a hotter fiancé. That didn't age well. I didn't leak those. But I knew who did. Callie had always been a little more loyal to me than Noah realized. Kept my hands clean. No public statements. No interviews. I let the silence deepen around him while the storm raged overhead. It was death by exposure. And I never once had to swing the knife. Tessa, by some miracle of PR coaching, posted a statement of her own. I was unaware Noah was still engaged during the beginning of my pregnancy. I deeply regret the pain caused to Isla and anyone involved. I'm focused on a healthy birth and moving forward privately. She never mentioned his name again. Neither did his parents. In fact, they canceled a vacation they'd planned with Noah and issued a quiet apology to my family. I never responded. But I read every word. Twice. 3 weeks after the wedding, Greensk's valuation dropped by 47%. They lost a key licensing deal to Damien's company. I hadn't planned that. But Damien did. He called it poetic positioning. You're not angry? I asked him one evening, curled on the leather couch in his office. He poured whiskey into a crystal glass and handed it to me. Angry? That your name is caught up in all this. He tilted his head. Isla, I built an empire out of getting underestimated. Marrying you was the smartest personal and public move I've made. I looked at him. And you're okay being used as a pawn? He grinned. I'm not a pawn, sweetheart. I'm the piece that takes the king. Noah tried to text again. This time his messages were quieter. Noah, I'm sorry. I should have told you everything. Noah, please just let me explain. Noah, we were supposed to be forever. Forever? He built forever on quicksand and secrets. Now he was sinking. One night, Lila sent me a video someone had taken outside a bar downtown. Noah stumbling to his car. Slurring. A stranger holding him upright while he tried to convince someone on the phone to give him another shot. He looked nothing like the man I had once loved. Or maybe he looked exactly like that man, just finally unmasked. I can't believe he's fallen this far, Lila whispered over the phone. I can, I said. Because destruction never looks like fire right away. Sometimes it looks like forgetting your passwords, watching your inbox empty, finding your calendar blank. Noah lost his company. Then his board seat. Then his penthouse lease. His father had co-signed and quietly withdrew support. And all of it happened without me lifting a finger. At the 1-month mark I received a package. No return address. Inside. My original engagement ring. The one Noah gave me. Wrapped in tissue. And a note. I'll never stop loving you. Even if you never speak to me again. I stared at it for a long time. Then I dropped it in a donation box. I didn't need reminders. I had already built something stronger. Something that didn't need rings to prove itself. That same week, Damien and I hosted our first event together. An arts and tech scholarship gala for underserved students. He gave a toast. I watched from across the room, remembering how I used to dream about being seen. Not paraded. Not possessed. Just seen. No. I was. Fully. Without apology. Without lies. As we left the event, he opened the car door for me and said, "You know what I like most about you?" You never made a scene, he said. You built a stage. I smiled, folding into the seat. And let the truth perform. The flowers arrived first. Long-stemmed white roses in a glass vase with a gold ribbon. Noah's old favorite. The card was unsigned. I didn't need a name. I dropped the bouquet straight into the trash. Then came the letters. 2 arrived at Wolf Holdings, both hand-delivered, both handwritten. One was a full apology. The other? A love letter. 5 pages of what we had, what I lost, and what I would do differently. I skimmed them over coffee while Damien was in a meeting. No tears. No hesitation. I tore both letters in half and dropped them in the shredder. But it didn't stop. The text returned. Noah, I'm not asking to fix everything. Just one conversation. Noah, I'll meet you anywhere. No press. No drama. Noah, please Isla. Please. Each message was more desperate than the last. And still I didn't respond. Not because I didn't want to. Because I didn't need to. But then he showed up at my gallery event. I hadn't expected him. He wasn't on the list. I was in the middle of greeting donors when I saw him standing near the entrance, suit wrinkled, eyes hollow. Security stepped toward him, but I raised my hand. Let him come. Let him beg where the world could watch. He approached slowly, careful not to make a scene. His voice trembled. I'm not here to ruin anything. I needed to see you. I folded my arms. You've seen me. I never meant to hurt you, he said. I didn't respond. I didn't know how to tell you. About Tessa. About the baby. It all happened so fast. And so you chose silence, I said. Over honesty. Over integrity. He winced. I was scared. So you thought I'd marry you anyway? I asked, tilting my head. While you built a secret life behind mine? I thought I could control it. I almost laughed. You thought I was too in love to leave. That I'd forgive anything. That I'd lower myself to stay. His face crumpled. Noah, you didn't just betray me, I said. You erased me from your future, and still expected me to smile in the photos. He reached for my hand. I stepped back. I'm not that woman anymore, I said. You still love me, he whispered. I know you do. I studied him for a long moment. I did love you, I said. But you killed her. He broke then. Right there on the polished marble floors of the gallery. Tears filled his eyes and he didn't even try to hide them. Tell me how to fix it, he begged. Tell me what I can do. I've lost everything. You were the only thing real in my life. You were real to me too, I said softly. Until I realized you weren't choosing me, you were using me. For status. For comfort. For a distraction from your guilt. I can change. Then change. But don't change for me. Damien arrived minutes later. Noah turned to him, eyes sharp with envy. You planned this whole thing. You used her. Damien's expression didn't change. I stood by her while you buried her under your lies. She doesn't need your protection. No, Damien said. She doesn't. But she deserves it. Noah's shoulders slumped. And that was when he finally understood. This wasn't about power anymore. It was about peace. And I had found mine. He left without another word. No more letters came. No more flowers. Just silence, the kind he used to weaponize. Only now it belonged to me. That night, Damien poured me a glass of wine as we curled into our couch overlooking the skyline. He won't try again, I said. No. He saw the end today. Damien was quiet for a moment. Then he said, You didn't humiliate him. I didn't need to, I replied. He did that to himself. You gave him a chance to be better. Which is more than he gave me. Damien raised his glass. To the woman who refused to shatter. I clinked mine against his. To the man who saw me whole. There's a silence that feels like punishment. Then there's a silence that feels like freedom. The first haunted me for weeks after the hospital. The second followed me into the life I chose after the wedding. It didn't arrive all at once. It was slow, like spring warming frost-bitten soil. There were still moments where I'd wake up at 3 a.m. expecting my mind to replay Noah's betrayal. But instead I'd hear Damien's quiet breathing beside me, steady and calm. And in those moments I realized something simple and devastating. I was no longer surviving him. I was living without him. Damien never rushed me. He didn't ask for confessions. Didn't demand reassurance or touch. He just made space. For grief, for laughter, for all the messy in-between that comes after loss disguised as love. We still hadn't taken a honeymoon. Not because we were avoiding it, but because we were learning each other slowly. Intentionally. Real love, he told me once, should never feel like an emergency. And for the first time in my life, it didn't. 6 weeks after the wedding, I found an old photo of Noah and me in a drawer. One of the first we'd ever taken. Sitting on a beach, smiling like two people who didn't know how wrong things would go. I stared at it for a long time. Then I tucked it into an envelope, wrote "Thank you for showing me who you are," and dropped it in the fireplace. It curled into ash in seconds. One morning I walked into Damien's office holding 2 coffees. He looked up from a contract and smiled like I was sunrise itself. "You're glowing," he said. "Confidence," I replied, handing him his espresso. I reclaimed it. He raised a brow. "Any particular reason?" I took a breath. "I'm ready." "For what?" "To talk about us. Not just revenge or recovery. Us." His eyes softened. He stood, took my hand and walked me to the window. The city buzzed beneath us. Alive, chaotic, magnificent. "I married you in war," he said quietly. "But I've loved you in peace." "I know," I whispered. "That's why I want to try, really try." His hand tightened in mine. "No backup plans this time?" he teased gently. "No," I said. "Only this one." We began to build a life. Not a perfect one, but one grounded in truth. We moved into a brownstone on West 73rd. Close to my gallery, close to his headquarters. Every piece of art we hung, every book on our shelves, every Sunday coffee walk, was ours by choice, not obligation. Damien gave me the space to be everything Noah tried to shrink. And that space, it bloomed into trust. One night, months later, we were hosting an intimate dinner. Just close friends, a few investors, and Lila, of course. After dessert, she raised her glass and tapped it with a spoon. "To Isla," she said, "who turned betrayal into a blueprint. And to Damien for never asking her to be anything less than brilliant." The room laughed and toasted. But Damien, he stood and took my hand. "I didn't plan this," he said. "Not any of it. Not the day she walked into my office asking for a stage. Not the moment she turned that stage into justice. And definitely not the moment I realized I wanted to stay long after the lights dimmed." My breath caught. He dropped to one knee. Not for a proposal. We were already married. He just looked up at me and said, "I want to do this forever. Without crisis. Without schemes. Just love. Real, boring, beautiful love. Are you in?" I knelt with him. Whispered, "I already am." Later that night, after everyone had left, I stood in the kitchen in his shirt, barefoot, wine glass in hand. He leaned against the doorframe, watching me with the kind of affection that could undo a woman. "You never told me," I said. "Why you said yes. That day in your office." He crossed the room slowly and kissed the back of my hand. "Because I saw in your silence what most people miss in noise," he said. "You weren't trying to prove anything. You were reclaiming everything." I swallowed the knot in my throat. I was scared I'd become bitter. "You didn't," he said. "You became bulletproof." Months passed. Life settled. And one warm morning, as we walked hand in hand through Central Park, a familiar figure appeared on the path ahead. Noah. He looked thinner, quieter, but sober, steady. He stopped when he saw us. I nodded. A quiet, neutral greeting. He didn't say anything, but his eyes held a tired kind of peace. I turned to Damien, who simply offered me his arm again. We walked on. No parting words. No lingering what. Because the ending had already been written. And this was the epilogue.